Hello everyone, Marty Jobson here. For this microminute, I'm going to be showing you a tentacled monster known as Hydra viridissima, or the green hydra, that can be found in my pond, and in fact in any pond that you look at pretty much. So, let's jump straight in. I've got here some pond water that I've just scooped out. I'll show you that. So here it is, just a little tub of pond water. And in here, hopefully, there are some Hydra. Now, I must admit, I did have some problems finding them this morning. Yesterday, when I was looking, I found them without a problem. So I'm going to go under this microscope. Now, you'll notice that I've actually got two microscopes for this microminute, because I need this microscope to get my Hydra onto the slide that then I put under this microscope. So we'll begin by popping this under there, and then I turn on my microscope, and hopefully we should be able to see some Hydra. Right, okay, there's one. Now, for some reason, as you can see, if I just pause for a minute and just focus there. The water is teeming at the moment. Obviously, it's the middle of summer now, and everything is starting to sort of grow in the water, and it's full of bugs. There's all sorts of flatworms, insects, crustacea, algae, you name it, it's in there. Let's zoom in a little bit. There's actually two right there that I can show you. Hopefully this one will behave itself. There, right, okay, so slap bang in the middle, just adjust the brightness. You've got Hydra viridissima, the green Hydra. It's green, it's got tentacles. And just for a second, note that everything you can see here that's moving is alive. The more I zoom in on this, the more you can see that it's just teeming with life. And this thing eats pretty much everything you can see that's moving in here. It will gobble them up. It's a very simple structure. It's got a straight body, a head, tentacles sticking out, and a mouth at the top. Just here, it's just coming to get me. Oh, no! Oh, it's over here. With its tentacles stretched out. Now, the very observant will have noticed that actually I've already shown you this once before. And in fact, it was microminute number 1. I featured the green Hydra. Since then, I've put on a lot more new technology. My hair has grown significantly. There you go. I shrunk it back so it's back in where we want it. But I hadn't looked at it under this thing. So I wanted to do that. And to do that, I need to use a special type of slide. I need to use what's known as a dimple slide, which I can show you here. If I show you there, can you see? It's a slide that's got just a little dimple engraved into it. And what I've done is I've taken a single Hydra, popped it on there, and then covered it with a cover slip. And the reason you have to do that is because if you don't, you just end up squashing whatever you put on the slide flat, which is not so good. So hopefully this little beastie, which I've had covered up, is still alive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the microscope. I'm going to leave you looking at that one whilst I look for this one. Right, and there it is, slap bang, first time I looked and it's there. So let's go, oops, pulled away. Let's go to the other microscope. So hopefully this should have settled down, and if I do that, there it is! There is my Hydra. Oh, and I'll bring it into shot. So at the moment it has squidged right down. Let's turn up the brightness a little bit and focus. It's squidged itself right down into sort of the top there. But it's immediately, as soon as it done that, it starts to grow out, and we're going to try and track its tentacle movement as it grows. And you can begin to see more of the detail on this Hydra. If I turn the brightness up more, it doesn't like it when the brightness is too high. But we can see, I'll turn the brightness down. It's also got it on auto focus, which may have been an auto white balance and auto exposure. But there, look, you can see its tentacles, and it's just starting to extend tentacles out. We'll try and track it. Oh, it's moving. It's moving actually moderately fast. Where are you? There you go. Look at that. Its tentacles, and we'll focus down on its mouth. And you can see it's actually made up of several layers. It's got this outer layer. And by the way, all these little wriggly things, these are alive as well. It's got this outer layer here, which you can see quite nicely. Where's my mouse? Here. Okay, there's its head, or its mouth, I should say. And it's got this outer layer, which is mostly see-through. And the reason why this is so dark is because it's full of this green colour. But you can see through the tentacles, if I can bring it back in line, come back. You can see through its tentacles. Like that. Oh, it's gone. Where'd it go? Where are you? It's not so fond of the very bright light. I've got the light turned up really quite bright. And the interesting thing is, there's a couple of interesting things I wanted to show you with this microscope. The first is, oh, flipping hell, will you stay still? The first is that it's trying to get out of the light constantly. The tentacles are covered in what are known as nematocysts. Okay, and these are tiny little, or nidophores, tiny little. I'm going to zoom in even further with this. I'm going to do this so we can see the tentacle. Hopefully it'll settle down now that I'm not. And you can see there. Look at his tentacles. All right, tentacles. Keep them in focus. I'm having to do two things at once. And you can see the tentacles. Oh. The tentacles are covered in these sort of blobby blobs. Look at me. And these blobby blobs that you're seeing swooping across, the see-through bits, these are the nematocysts. These are the stinging cells. And if I use a different type of optics, like this, hopefully, this is called phase contrast. If I can find him again, I'm going to switch just to find him. I've lost it. Where's it gone? It's gone. Hold on. It's just disappeared. There it is. Is that it? No. It's gone. Where'd it go? Oh, found it again. So, dearie me. Right. I'll zoom back in on that and go back to this. Right, there we go. So now, we're looking at it with a different type of illumination. We're looking at it with something called phase contrast. And under phase contrast, if I'm careful, you can see some of the detail on the stinging cells. And specifically, you can see, if I can get, we want to see one of the tips of its tentacles, which is one of these here. Is that a tentacle there? That's a tentacle out of focus. I'm going to zoom back out because that was making my life very difficult. You can see, right, there he is. She, it. They're actually hermaphrodite. Okay, so there are its tentacles. Let's zoom in on its tentacles using phase contrast. And you can see, hopefully, that it's covered in little spikes. Can you see them? They're quite difficult to see. If I focus carefully. There, can you see this? There's a couple. Look along the edge here as I focus up and down. That's its mouth, by the way, there. Would you stay still? Oh, dearie me. There. You can see some of the spiky bits on it. And in fact, do you see that long... Oh, the spiky bits here? Can you see along the edges of the tentacles? There are sort of little dark spiky hairs almost. And these are the things that activate the stinging cells. I'm not convinced I've shown you that very well, but I can show you something else much better, and that is, very simply, I can show you why it's green. So this thing is green, not because it contains a sort of a pigment like a frog contains a pigment. It's green because of a symbiotic relationship that it has. And if I turn on the fluorescence on this microscope, like this, hopefully it begins to glow red. And the reason it glows red is because inside its cells, inside the cells of this thing, there are hundreds and hundreds, it really doesn't like the fluorescence, hundreds and hundreds of chloroplasts. So the same things that are in plants. This is not a plant, it's an animal. But what it does is it teams up with an algae called chlorella, and that algae is symbiotic with it and lives inside its cells. Ooh. I'm going to bring it into focus. I'm going to leave it. It's quite fun with it in its sort of bright pink. Bright pink. There you go. Right, I've spent far too much time on this. I hope that was of interest. I especially like the bright pink fluorescent Hydra. Anyway, thanks as always, Go to Zeiss, for helping me out to do this. I hope you've enjoyed that. I've run on far too long. We got there in the end. Thanks if you persisted this long. Thanks for persisting. My name's Marty Jopson. Join me every week. I'm doing more of these, and if you go onto my website, there are plenty more. The website is following on the screen in a second. It's also in the show notes. So thank you very much for joining me. My name's Marty Jopson again, and you've been fantastic.